those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, good morning and welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm CJ, and Chip is busy today at his retirement board meeting, and he just sent me a message saying, may be late, retirement board running long, hearings with lawyers. Well, you know how lawyers are. They'll just drag everything out forever. So if Chip can make it, he'll come in somewhere mid-show. If not, we'll see him on Friday. How many people watched the City Clowncil meeting last night? I know I did. And I was actually surprised it wasn't as bad as it normally is. I didn't have to pull the pins out of my eyes or out of my ears. It was quite interesting. But, you know, the problem I have with last night's meeting was, once again, the city charter is thrown by the wayside, although they're saying it's not. Kathy Ann Viveris was appointed to the Disability Commission because the Disability Commission requested it. Doesn't the Disability Commission know what the city charter says about city employees being on commissions and boards? I guess not. Now, they quoted something out of Article 9, which said that the mayor can grant a waiver. But this mayor has granted a waiver to everybody. Everybody's on a waiver because the mayor doesn't want to put anyone in that's maybe against him or doesn't want to, you know, speak against anything he has to say. The mayor doesn't have a lot of friends. Everyone that's his friend, he's bought and paid for. Or they've bought and paid for him, one or the other. Just look at his campaign finance reports. $18,000 in one night. I wonder where all that came from. Mostly Rhode Island. But again, we look at this and we say, why do we have a new charter? Why do we have a charter at all if it's never going to be followed? Because it hasn't been followed, and it just doesn't get followed all the time. Now, way back when this charter was coming before the voters, Chip and I said very clearly, vote no on this charter. It's going to be nothing but a problem. And as usual, it's nothing but a problem. And all you people kept saying was, oh, you're being negative, it's going to move the city forward, it's going to be a change. It hasn't moved the city forward. It is not a change. It is the same old, same old. And this city ignores the charter. So what's the sense of having it? What is the sense of having it? It makes absolutely no sense. None whatsoever. And that's where the problem comes in. We paid $40,000 for somebody to come in and write a charter that's so vague that it's subject to interpretation by anyone, and every interpretation is different. And this is what creates a problem in our government. Because you, the voter, voted for this thinking, well, I'll believe the propaganda from Mike Mioza and all those charter commissioners because, you know, this is the best thing in the world. No, it's not. It never has been, and it never will be. And it will never get changed because, again, the mayor and the city council appoint the people to change the charter and to review the charter every 5 years. And guess what? Nothing's going to change in it. Nothing whatsoever. Because then you have to vote on it again. And I'm sure by now you're already disgusted with it. Because I know I am. On my way in this morning, I noticed something quite interesting. I was looking at the trash collection, which kind of scared me a little bit. And I'm sure people know about this, and I'm sure that they are familiar with the fact that purple bags are still around. But how many people knew that purple bags did not have to be used by... How many people knew that purple bags were not used by businesses? Only residents are using them. Only residential properties are using purple bags. Businesses don't have to use them. I think that's unfair. For the 4 years that purple bags have been in usage, businesses have not had to use them. They get the same trash pickup that we do. They get the same recycling pickup that we do, but they don't have to pay for it. You have to pay for it. And your mayor, this mayor, previous mayors, you've got 3 mayors total to blame for this, all didn't require businesses to pay for these purple bags. Now, I'm against purple bags. I don't even use them because I don't have to, because I hired a private company. But what gives these businesses the right not to use them? They sell the bags, but they don't use the bags. It's quite interesting. How many knew about the controversial banner that went up? It was a very controversial banner, too. The banner that went up, it went up on Plymouth Avenue, right next to the Flatiron Building, is one of the city's new Make It Here banners, the Fall River Make It Here banners that businesses were supposed to advertise on. Well, somebody who the mayor and Monica Souza do not want to release the name of the person who paid for that banner, put a banner up that said, "Choose Life." This created an uproar. People thought that this was from an anti-abortion group, that this was the pro-life movement. Some people thought it was in regards to drug addiction and overdose. Some people thought it was involving suicide prevention. But it was controversial. People were upset about it. So the banner was up over the weekend. I guess it went up on Friday. Pictures were taken and they were shown on Facebook all over the place. And people started screaming about it. And they were calling each other out. It became a small war on social media about this. And certain people who are always in the fray, because they have nothing good to say about people in Fall River. They say they have everything good to say about Fall River, but everyone else that disagrees with them is no good. And believe me, I'd rather use other words, but I'm not going to. So in the Herald News, the headline read, "Make It Here banner removed after message steers questions." A banner recently erected on Plymouth Avenue containing a possible pro-life connotation caught the attention of some residents and was taken down shortly after the company in charge of the program and the administration began receiving protests. The banner, which started popping up around the city a few weeks ago, are part of the city's new initiative to promote the logo Make It Here, its designation as an all-American city and local businesses. The banners are a joke. The banners are a joke. Then one appeared on the light pole near the Flatiron Building with the dark, bold lettering, "Choose Life," under the Make It Here logo and "Welcome to Fall River." The program was strictly for businesses. Businesses! Not for propaganda. Not for political messages. But that's what they've done. They've put political messages now on these banners. I guess after all the complaints, and especially with Channel 10 covering this story, it was covered by Brian Crandall from WJR-TV Channel 10. And he spoke with Amy Blanchette, who is a former city school committee candidate and a local activist. And her and Erica Scott, who's also a local activist and a board member of NARAL, which is a pro-choice Massachusetts organization, was one of the people who protested the banner and contacted the administration to complain about the Choose Life movement. I'm proud of Fall River for rapidly removing the banner because the point of the program was to promote many small businesses driving our economy, not to promote controversial political messages, said Scott. While she commends the city for its action, she's disappointed that they won't reveal the organization that purchased the banner and didn't follow the parameters of the context. I think it was a deception in the part of who bought the banner. No, I don't think it's a deception in the part of who bought the banner. I think it's the fact that, like everything else in the city, any program we have cannot be run properly. This city can't run a program correctly if it came up and bit them in the backside. And that's the problem. We need to be clear on everything. But like our charter, which is very unclear, nothing is clear. The city's position has been that they had nothing to do with these banners. But Monica Souza sold them. But she says, no, the company which is handling this problem is the one that sold the banners. Approximately 240 local businesses have purchased the banners that are allowed to have their business name, logo, and the date they were established. CGI Communication, which is the company affiliated with the All-American Cities organization, showcased banners, sells the banners, and several dozen banners were sold to the city. Okay, so they sell the banners. But Monica Sousa's the one promoting them, and she's out there pushing them as well. The people want to know who put this banner up. Who put it up? And I'm going to stand on this, and I will almost guarantee that the city, a public records request was made by Erica Scott to find out who put this banner up. I will almost put money on it that they say that they have no idea and no record of the sale of the banner because it's handled by an outside company. Whereas Monica Sousa probably sold that banner, which is very clearly a problem. Because once again, the city doesn't do things right. If Monica's doing it, it's supposed to be part of the public record. She was out promoting this. She was going around to businesses selling and promoting these banners. Then everything she did should be part of the public record. Let's see if it is part of the public record. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. The city commits $300,000 for a Vietnam Veterans Monument. Now, I'm not against monuments for Vietnam veterans. I'm not against monuments for anyone that is rightly deserving them. And people who have served this country rightly deserve these monuments. But we've seen the damage already done at the Iwo Jima Memorial. And we've had to repair and replace that. Now we're going to put up a wall, which is very similar to the Vietnam Memorial Wall, which is in Washington, D.C. We're going to put one of those up in Bicentennial Park. Can you already see the graffiti and the vandalism that's done to this wall? I can. What are we going to do, and how much will it cost us after this $300,000 to maintain this wall? For some reason, people think it's $300,000, it's up, it's done, it's over with. That's not the situation. You have to maintain it. You have to keep the property right. Now, this came about because of a request from the City Council to the administration to fund the $300,000 to purchase the new Vietnam Veterans Memorial Wall. Mayor Jazel Correa II stepped up to the plate and announced at a fundraiser that he'll be requesting a transfer of city funds. Is that going to come out of the slush fund? Is that going to come out of that reserve account, Mr. Mayor? You know, the same reserve account you couldn't buy police vehicles out of because you had a bond for it? You sent Kathy Ann Viveris and Mary Sahadi down to bond for 3 vehicles that are only going to last 7 years or have a lifespan of 7 years, but it's a 30-year bond. This is your crack financial team and you that are not doing this right. There's a problem with that. Or are you going to bond $300,000 for this? We've got $2 million sitting in a reserve account. And for some reason, your administration doesn't want to touch it. Are you trying to aim to make it free cash at the end of the year? Because it looks that way to me. And always remember, people, free cash doesn't mean it's free. Free cash means you were overtaxed. The city overtaxed you. The city had a larger budget than they needed. They overtaxed you to fulfill that budget, and then they had extra money at the end. And the mayor says, oh, well, now we have money in our reserve account, our rainy day fund, because we have all this free cash. No, you have money in that rainy day account because you overtaxed the people. You overtaxed the populace. You overtaxed the businesses. You did not manage your budget properly, which we see all the time because you have to make transfers daily from one budget to another, from this to payrolls, from this to benefits, from this. It's always something, something, something. Guess what? Do your budget like they do it in Newton. This is your budget for the year. That's it. Don't come back and ask for a dime. Don't ask for something unless it's a grave emergency. Show us what you plan to do. Let us know. Let us know what you accomplished last year and put it down in writing. Why don't you do that? You're afraid to. You're afraid to put these things in writing. You're afraid to talk about them because you might be held accountable. And we know, Mr. Mayor, you don't want to be held accountable for anything. Just look at Snow Owl. The mayor says he's going to ask for that transfer during the October 6th meeting. Well, if you're going to ask for this transfer, why didn't he ask for it at the last meeting? Oh, that's right, because yesterday's city council meeting had loan orders up the wazoo. Loan orders for, and again, anything for police or fire, the city council just says yes to, without even questioning it. So they approved a bond for microwave communications because they say they have dead zones in the city, which I believe they do. And I believe they need better equipment. I've always said that the city needs the best possible communication equipment that we can have, especially after the 9/11 situation where the firefighters there couldn't even communicate with each other because the communication was so poor. I don't ever want to see that happen in Fall River, where we have an emergency of some type and police and fire can't communicate with each other because the communication system is so poor and so dragged out, it's unbelievable. We also added a bond order for new voting machines, which look kind of interesting to say the least. But again, this machine is made specifically for larger cities and towns, larger cities. And to me, I didn't see the other one because there's another company that makes one, and I would have liked to see what they had to offer. It would have been nice to see what the other thing was. I mean, this was supposedly sent out to bid, but nobody else saw anything. Again, no transparency. We need new voting equipment. There's no question about it. We've needed it for years. 4 years. We've been dragging this for too long, and finally we're going to do it. Could that money have come out of the slush fund account? I don't know, Mr. Mayor. Can you tell me? Could that have come out of the slush fund account? Or was it impossible for it to come out of the slush fund account, the reserve account? Let's stop bonding. Mr. Mayor, your administration, your crack financial team said that you plan to hold the debt exclusion for 8 years. And that's based upon our debt service. Because at the end of 8 years, you may be able to roll over the debt exclusion into the debt service. But if you keep taking out more and more bonds, the debt service is never going to come down low enough to roll it in. Because God knows, this city has never met a tax it didn't love to keep. So you're going to be paying that debt exclusion for 30 years, not for 8 years. And we told you on this show, first and foremost, that they're probably lying to you. We don't pull punches on this show. A lot of people don't like it when I'm on alone. I don't like it when I'm on alone either. I don't get as heated, I guess, as Chip does. That's been going on. Overtime, nobody's working it. Kind of reminds me of Fall River, because I'm sure if we start looking at the Fall River overtime budget, we're going to find the same thing. After all, we've already found that overtime was being charged to the wrong department and to the wrong budgets. So why couldn't we find that overtime is just not going to be there? I mean, we already see stipends that are given away right and left without question. And now we've rolled most of those into the salaries so that people can get paid in their retirement for them. Again, Mary Sahadi, jacking up the unfunded liability of the retirement system. Remember the retirement system? The one that you called them liabilities? Quoting you, Mary Sahadi, the retirement system, the retirees are liabilities. And you treat them that way every time you turn around. But you'll be the first one to complain about the unfunded liability, yet you'll be the first one to raise the unfunded liability. And you're also the first one to take advantage of the fact that you've put all these years on the Housing Authority Board, and now you put 5 years on full-time in city government, and you'll be qualified for a full-time pension at the rate, at city government rate. God forbid you not line your pockets like every other politician does in this city. It's amazing to see how this works. But the state had to hire a consulting firm. Here we go, spending your tax dollars again. to review the state police operations. The outside consulting firm, Ernst Young is the same accounting firm that the fire department union hired several years ago to review the city's budgets and its finances, and Ernst Young said, we can't do it. There's no way to follow the numbers in this thing. And that's where it was found out by that Mary Sahadi and her firm did not do audits. They did reconciliations. Chip still has that sworn testimony to prove what was said. But Ernst Young's, they've been hired to help reform the state police, which has been rocked by criminal charges against troopers for collecting overtime for shifts they did not work. The law applies to everyone, guys. Sorry, I mean, I'm all for police and fire. I'm all for supporting them, but when you have at least 17 troopers suspected of payroll fraud, and they've retired this year, and 6 of the 17 have been charged, why haven't all 17 been charged? I've got a problem with that. Gilpin was put in charge of the state police last November after Colonel Richard McKeon resigned amid allegations that he improperly ordered a trooper to delete embarrassing details from an arrest report for the daughter of a Worcester County judge. I mean, this is what we're dealing with at the state level. Kerry Gilpin announced the move on Monday, saying it's intended to restore public trust in the agency. I think you're going to have to do a lot more than hire Ernst Young's to restore public trust in the state police. Ernst Young will perform an audit and assessment of policies, internal controls, and record management, including regular, overtime, detail pay, employee leave, and other compensation and benefits. In April, state police disbanded Troop E, which patrolled Logan International Airport, added GPS devices and police cruisers, and hired an independent auditing firm to assess the department's administrative procedures. In May, a study on staffing levels concluded that adding 30 troopers at the airport and other Massport properties would curtail overtime spending. Gilpin said overtime at the airport in August was 29% less than projected in April. So this has resulted in the hiring of more police officers, which means an increased pension, which means increased salaries, which means more money spent. And that's just for the airport, in order to decrease overtime. That's like the fire department does here in Fall River. Way back in the day, it was cheaper to have overtime than it was to do the shifts the way they were doing them. So they did it because the city was saving money, and they didn't have to hire more people. Now we're doing it, and it's costing us more because the overtime is more expensive. It's time to change that. Look at our overtime budget. See how much of our overtime budget is there. How many firefighters can be hired to take over those overtime hours, and hire them and put them in place. Cut the overtime to nothing. It's the same thing in the police department. We're running the police department with overtime instead of hiring more and more police officers. And that will cut down on the overtime. And when you consider that both of these departments have unlimited leave, they don't call it sick leave, it's unlimited leave for injuries sustained on the job or for other reasons, that creates a problem. That creates a problem. Because if enough people take that leave, then we're back in using overtime again. And that's a scary proposition. Very scary. How many people remember the Healy School and the fact that it was being demolished to make room for 6 new houses? Seems like every school that's sold in the city is going to make room for some more houses. The Dubuque School over here, that made room for 3 more houses right there. I saw it. And supposedly more. But a check of the site finds, at the old Healy School site, finds that mounds of debris from the demolition shrouded in white tops, some torn in areas, what appeared to be the former school's boiler and chimney are not covered. This project was stopped because of asbestos. Every one of our city schools, old city schools, all the older schools, has asbestos in them. The King Philip Mill had asbestos in it. And that project was stopped because of the asbestos, because they found more asbestos. To think that you don't have asbestos really is insulting to anyone with any common sense. Demolition of the Healy School on Hicks Street was ordered to stop in June due to asbestos dust by the State Department of Environmental Protection, and as of now, the work to take down the old structure remains in limbo. The Mass DEP issued a cease and desist order to Spindle City Homes and Miranda Construction Company after receiving complaints from neighbors of the property. The company filed plans with the city to construct six single-family homes. Mass DEP issuing the unilateral administrative order to you based on its observations during a site inspection conducted on June 5th, which identified that dry asbestos-containing material was present in demolition debris samples collected by Mass DEP. Read the original order. Spindle City, owned by Eric Resendiz and Miranda Construction, were also ordered to wet down and cover debris piles on the site and to have a licensed asbestos abatement company to clean the site and dispose of the debris. Resendiz did not. Days after receiving the order to shut down demolition, Eric Resendiz filed an appeal with the Department's Office of Appeals and Dispute Resolution, according to Mass DEP spokesman Edmund Coletta. On July 12, 2018, Spindle City Homes and Mass DEP filed a joint motion to Jane Rothschild, the presiding officer for the Department's Office of Appeals, seeking to stay the appeal hearing while the two parties attempted to work out the issues related to handling removal of the demolition debris and asbestos cleanup. Rothschilds extended the stay until October 15th, so we won't know anything again until October 15th, another couple of weeks. But there's asbestos sitting around, covered in tops, with holes in it, on Hicks Street. Asbestos. Asbestos causes mesothelioma. It's a lung cancer that is terminal. And this isn't the first site that's been demolished which had asbestos and nothing was done about it. People have to stay on top of these things. We've had mills that have been demolished, like the King Philip Mill, where asbestos was contained in there and nobody did anything about it. And when complaints were filed, the argument was, well, you can find asbestos in the ground and in the water surrounding the sites. That's baloney. That's baloney. If there's asbestos, there's asbestos. And the health of our children and our populace is more important than anything else. It's kind of hard to figure out where we're going if we don't know where we've been. That's the truth. Well, I guess Chip couldn't make it today. Oh, we got a message in saying the Disability Commission membership is controlled by Chapter 40, which requires an elected or appointed official be a member. Well, that's an elected or appointed official. I know Kathy Ann is an appointed official, but she's appointed as the city administrator. I have a problem with having people doing more jobs than they need to when there are other people that can be doing those jobs. Thank you, Patrick, for that information. Of course, everyone knew it was Patrick who sent that information to me. Well, everyone, I'm sorry if this show wasn't exciting as when we have Chip, but it is what it is. And Chip will be back hopefully on Friday, and we will have yet another show for you to come forward in the coming days and weeks ahead. Have a great day today. Try to stay dry. And remember, stay angry, everyone.